Right. So let's start with you, Adrian. Thank you for doing this, and thank you also for bringing Dean onto this. You are people who I've got a great deal of admiration for, and nobody.
Someone from a mental institution about to take you away.
What's that?
Was that someone from a mental institution trying to take you away in the doorway? Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So yeah,
Most people like what we do are usually a little bit mad.
Is that what? Do you think so? I don't know. I regard you guys as conceptualists, and right. I'm going to tell a little story before we start to the listeners. We did actually attempt to do this interview before, and I did a fair amount of research about both your backgrounds, and the amount of projects that you two have been involved in is mind-bending, frankly. And I've done a bit more research now, and it's even more mind-bending. So, can you tell us first of all how you two met?
Where were we? So I first met Dean. I used to work in a rehearsal room called One Groove. Was it called One Groove Studios? It was run by a guy called Mark Mercer.
Right.
And Dean was rehearsing downstairs with the All CNI.
Right.
So for a festival, I think he had Rasheen Murphy, Jarvis, Philip Oakey. There's Baby Bird in that thing. I don't think it was it? I don't think he did any kick to this. Lazy cat. So he were the Sheffield legends were downstairs, but I just moved to Sheffield from Salford. I had a little 4-track on the desk while I was letting bands in. All CNI were just really loud downstairs, this pounding electronic music. It sounded great, but I couldn't concentrate, so I was getting really, really pissed off. and the door kept going, oh, it's Philip, I've come for a rehearsal. I'll go downstairs. I think actually the same session, a pigeon got into the rehearsal room, and I ended up trying to get a pigeon out of the rehearsal room with Philip Oakey. Philip kept going, oh, I've got that. What you need to do is get a towel. We can throw it over it. Things good. Things look. So it's basically during this sort of time, I was kind of like writing little shitty 4-track demos. And Dean just heard some of the stuff and he quite liked it and invited me to come to his studio. I was thinking I was just going to end up working in his studio, but he was going on holiday and I was in this room of just electronic music, synthesizers and stuff I never really knew how to use. So when he came back off holiday, I'd come up with a couple of tracks, sort of electronically.
What year was this?
It was the very late 90s, I think. It was about 98, something.
Right.
So it was around about that.
So, what was the identity that you had at that time?
Right here.
Yeah.
In what sense?
I mean, was it a band name or was it?
I started when I was working with Dean. It was a project called Kings Have Long Arms, which was like a solo electronic thing. In fact, I did a track with Philip Oakey.
Yeah.
He sang on a track called Rock and Roll Is Dead, which subsequently the Human League did live a few times, which was quite a pleasure.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
How did you get on with?
It was like a electro kind of thing.
Yeah, how did he get on with Phil? You find him easy to work with?
Yeah, he just kind of turns up and does his thing. He's usually well rehearsed and gets on with it in 10 minutes and off he goes.
Well, he had the finest training on earth, with us.
Did you teach him?
It's all gone downhill since. Not really.
That taught him everything.
Sorry?
Did you say
everything? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so, you've done this travel up tour recently.
Yes.
Did you approach Philip to do that?
Oh, yes. Oh, good Lord, yeah.
How did that go down? No, it's just interesting because I love those records,
Well, I mean, so did we. So does Glenn. You know, he was a fan in those days, and we actually were working on Phil to ask him to do it with us, just to put it to bed. You know, do like one or two shows, and then go right. We've done that, and it's like a nice kind of tribute to those albums, to the influence of those albums.
Yeah.
And, he was wavering a little bit at one point, and then there was a kind of groundswell through their social media of people wanting it to happen.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where their manager, Simon Watson, went onto social media and said, "Over my dead body."
Oh, really?
Yeah, in those words, yeah.
Right.
So we said that was the end of a 7-year process of us trying to persuade him. So we just turned around and said, "Look, I tell you what, we'll just do it." Glenn's got a similar voice to Phil's in a lot of ways anyway, similar kind of range. And we'll just do it. And it took quite a lot of time to persuade the promoters to take it on, because they didn't quite get the importance of the appeal and the importance of those albums. They just went, "Nobody's going to turn up," said, because it was quite expensive to put on with all the. We had massive digital screens and stuff, and eventually,
do you think people were dubious about putting it on without Philip being there?
Probably,
because obviously, you know, he fundamentally is the frontman of the Human League.
Yeah, of course.
From well, you know,
of course. Who's interviewing over here?
I'm just interested, you know.
No, I'm teasing. No, but the thing is, the thing is, we presented it as 717 presents those albums. So it's like doing a cover of those albums, but it just happens that, you know, I wrote most of the music, really.
Yeah.
So
the clips are so sounding good.
Oh, it was not just sounding. I mean, it looked amazing. I was really pleased with it, I have to say. And I hope we get a chance to really stage it again in festivals and stuff. You know, be good at somewhere like Sonar or something like that. Yeah, but anyway, we're working on that. But yeah, I did it. You say you didn't go? Did you go and see it? No.
No. I was on tour, I think, with Itop.
Oh, bummer. Because I would have got you in and everything if we would have been in contact then. You could have had.
Yeah. Well, you know, next time, you know.
I mean, it's sold out. I mean,
if you want me to come on and do a few numbers, you know. I'll get my guitar out.
I tell you what, though, I'd done some podcasts for other people, particularly Americans, and and a lot of them, they don't do as much research as I do for what. And I did one. It was for a friend of mine. He came on and he said, "Today we've got Martin Ware, and he's going to tell us about, you know, how he made 'Don't You Want Me Baby.'" And I'm going, and this was live, by the way, and I'm going, not so much really. He said, "All right then, tell us how you made 'Human.' That was a great record with Jan and Lewis. Tell us about working with Jan and Lewis." I said, "Nope, not that one either." So that was how the podcast started. It was a disaster. Anyway, live. Right, what I want you to do then, I'm going to talk to Dean now for a couple of minutes. Dean, I want you to tell me the kind of evolution of the acts that you've been responsible for as a producer and as a songwriter. I know listen, you did them all, so don't blame me if it's too many of them. I'm trying to get a grasp on the kind of timeline, really, I suppose. So if you wouldn't mind giving me a heads up on that and our listeners, that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, I started sort of I was in a band at school, kind of like a punk band. And then I kind of got into the electronic music scene around the late 70s. So I was really into sort of Fad Gadget, like early Human League, Daniel Miller, and the kind of darker stuff. And I'm from where I was living in Essex, kind of near Basildon. And so
Southern Electronica.
Yeah. So like one of the first bands I went to see was a local band called Depeche Mode. So we used to go and see them quite a lot, and I saw they did tours with like bands like Blancmange, and that was that took me and my friends away from the sort of punk guitar thing into more of an electronic thing. So I've always, like through the 80s, I've always been into electronic music and synthesizers, and I've got an older brother and sister, and their music when they were kids was Bowie and Roxy Music and Mark Bolan, so I've always had those kind of influences. So I moved up to Sheffield from London. I was living with a girl from Sheffield in London, and I used to visit Sheffield, and I really liked the music scene at the time, kind of the early 80s. Yeah, and just like DBA, early Pulp, used to hang out like with early Pulp and go to their gigs. There's another band called Big Vistriol, which is kind of quite an anarchic electronic band. So I ended up moving up to Sheffield, did a few kind of small bands, set up a little studio, or a few different little sort of 8-track studios, tape studios. And I ended up working with Parrot, Richard Barrett.
Oh, I love
it. He's great. In the early 90s, and he'd already done a few things. I think the first thing he bought, we just started putting out kind of little 12-inch singles on his Earth Records label,
right?
Which was under various guises, really, just kind of odd little sample things. And then and there's loads to talk about. Then he knew a band called Add Into X.
Well, that's all.
Yeah. This is early Add Into X, before they signed to Mute, and they were just kind of getting going. It was like an early version. It wasn't all the same members. And so we recorded their first EP at my studio, with Parrot was producing it and I was engineering it. Then I ended up producing 2 or 3 of the subsequent Add Into X albums, which was really great. They introduced me to loads of electronic music I'd never heard, like stuff from the 60s, all the Radiophonic Workshop stuff, Bruce Huck, just like a lot of music that I never really knew existed, really, kind of. And I still love all that now. And there's still all these kind of fairly unknown electronic artists from that period that are still being discovered all the time, from different countries. And so that's really fascinating.
Can I just interrupt you for a sec? I was talking to John McClure, and part of the interview we did, we were kind of riffing on the idea, because he loves electronic music as well, even obviously he's not so much of an electronic artist, but we're riffing on the idea of doing a documentary series, either on the radio or preferably on TV, about the development of electronic popular music around the world, though, not kind of UK-centric or Europe-centric or America-centric, but Africa, loads of stuff in Africa, and stuff that was happening in the Far East at the time, loads of stuff that I keep discovering now. I'm sure you do as well. I mean, just amazing stuff. I mean, I was on the documentary for William Onyeabor, for instance, who I only really discovered about 15 years ago, and that stuff's amazing. And I just think it's underrepresented. I think the black influence and ethnic influence in electronic music is underappreciated and underrepresented. And I think people would find it fascinating. So I said, look, we can get loads of money out of BBC. It'd be like what's it called? Fat Hairy Bikers or whatever it is. Them two. We could be like the equivalent.
On Safari with John McClure.
Yeah. On Sonic. Oh, we'll call it Sonic Safari. That's it. That's great. Thank you for that. Sonic Safari with Rezi and the Rev. Anyway, sorry. Carry on. So we got up to where?
that's one of the great things, I suppose, about, the internet age is just all this stuff has suddenly is getting unearthed, There was the Indian guy, wasn't there? What was that? He originated of Acid House, who'd bought he was an Indian film composer, and he bought like these cheap early Roland gear, like the 606 drum machine and the 303 and Juno and stuff like that in the early 80s.
He was doing that in 81, I think.
Yeah, and he was kind of accidentally making Acid House,
Hey. It's more like what we did with M17, actually. That's what happened with us. Yeah. Let me go.
Yeah. So, yeah, no.
What was he called?
What's his name? It was seven ragas or something.
So the album's called something, right? It's off something.
Yeah.
And he's something sing.
We'll send you a link.
Yeah. Because obviously the people who are listening to this would like to check that out, I'm sure.
No, Adrian can't find it.
Yeah, I've got it on my phone, actually.
Well, through Parrot, anyway, we put out a few 12-inch, going back to stuff that I was doing in the 90s, and we put out a 12-inch single under the name The All Seeing Eye.
I love it. I bought that.
Yeah, there was... First one was called... but we put out one 12-inch, and that kind of got us signed to London Records. And then we thought, we better do something else. And then we did The Beat Goes On.
Which is massive.
Right? Yeah, that's good. And then we sort of got Jarvis in to do a bit of songwriting over the top. And that turned into the album, one with Tony Christie, Baby Bird.
Love it.
Like Sheffield-based album of Sheffield legends, you know what I mean? So that was cool. But that lasted one album.
That artist was called Sharanjit Singh.
Thank you.
So, yeah, it's 10 ragas to a disco beat.
It's a great title for an album. Brilliant.
It's good, worth a listen.
Yeah, it's quite minimal, but really spot on.
And so, go through this quickly. At the same time that I was doing The All Seeing Eye, I was also working with a guy called Jared Gosling. We had a band called I Monster, and we were kind of sampling old easy listening records from the 60s.
I love all that shit. Excavate and all that stuff.
And then, all kinds of stuff like James, just any kind of weird old shit really to get like a good sound, because we just bought, it was at the time, it was like you could actually buy an affordable sampler. Do you know what I mean? If, obviously you had like Fairlights in the 80s and stuff, but in the early 90s you had like the cheap Roland Acais, the cheap Acais were coming out.
Yeah.
And we both bought like these cheap Roland samplers and really got into the whole sampling thing, an Atari ST computer running a sampler. So we were sampling all these sort of crazy old easy listening records, and that's where we did one called Daydream in Blue. And then that got us signed to a label as well. So there's the whole I Monster thing, which is still going. We're still doing the odd thing nowadays. Just finished mixing a single actually today.
Wow!
So that was the I Monster thing, and then I suppose that I toured extensively with that sort of around Europe. Then we sort of left the label, fell out with the label. Started doing as you do.
That's what labels are.
As you do, and we just ended up sort of putting stuff out ourselves. And then there's the stuff with Adrian, which kind of started with helping him with his Kings of Long Arms project, and then we did the Eccentronic Research Council.
Yes. My favourite,
which is the more kind of experimental music that kind of harks back to 60s electronic music, avant-garde.
Yeah, so you saw analog rather than digital sequence.
Yeah. They're using all the old synths I've got and Adrian's got now as well.
All right, so let's pause there for a sec. Can you tell me, I don't need the exhaustive list, but tell me some of the analog synths that you possess.
I've got...
These are loads.
I try and get kind of one from each manufacturer. So I've got like a Minimoog, an EMS Synthy, Oberheim 2 voice, sequential Pro 1, Roland Pro Mars. I've got a lot.
Pro Mars is
Very, yeah, it's a bit like a Jupiter 4, isn't it?
yeah, the solid sounding oscillators, great for bass lines and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got string machines and
Optigan.
I've got an Octagon, which is quite interesting. If you've ever seen those,
Well,
it's a Mattel organ thing, but it uses clear celluloid discs, which
It's like a flexi disc.
like a flexi disc. So it's a bit like a Mellotron, but instead of using tape, you put these celluloid discs in. So it works on the same technology as old films used to work, where the soundtrack would be like a wavy line that would be read by a light bulb.
optical, yeah.
So that's what this is. It's just, you look at the disc, it's like just a bunch of waveforms, and the light bulb reads it, and each note is assigned to a waveform.
I love that.
So, and then you can turn the disc over and it plays everything backwards. But it's got kind of accompaniments. If you look it up, it's really cool. It's really interesting. It's a bit of a
Who makes it?
Mattel.
Mattel Octagon.
The toy makers.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
from the 70s.
I've never heard of that. Never heard of it.
Not many over here, mainly in America, but so a few were kind of used. I think Tom Waits might have used one on some of his albums,
Right.
but they just sound disgustingly dirty and
Great.
crackly, and yeah,
That's what you want.
they're really cool.
All right, we're not at the end of your story, I know, but let's move over to Adrian and talk about your background from the start and how you ended up in Sheffield.
I killed a man. No, I was. So I came over here in my early 20s or something. I was just doing like little shitty local bands in Manchester during the Manchester kind of period. And I know it was more kind of like mid 90s, so it would be more the Oasis, that kind of business. So every band sounded like that. It was really annoying. A friend of mine, I stood in for over 6 months on guitar for Marquis Smith as well.
Did you?
Who was my next door neighbour, so I played with the Forefront. He was like my sort of youth training scheme in rock and roll, if you like.
Absolutely.
Taught me how to deal with musicians and music instruments. Everything you need to know.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a good guy.
I'm sure.
But then I came over to Sheffield to get away from all that Manchester thing. I moved in with a mate of mine who had a synth, and he had a 4-track. We set it all up in the same studio where Dean was rehearsing often, and we were the only band in there with a synthesizer. One side was playing Oasis songs, the other side were playing like Stone Roses, I Am the Resurrection or something. So I couldn't escape. The grass was never green, all that stuff, you know what I mean?
Right.
I tried to escape.
What was that?
I tried to escape the laddie soul culture of Manchester.
Yeah.
And came where I thought it'd be all fairies and synthesizers, and it wasn't.
Where was the synth that you had?
I think the first one, Dean gave me, was like a Korg, not micro preset. Micro preset, yeah.
Nice.
That only half of it worked.
I think the micro preset was like the first synthesizer you'd ever see, like in the John Laws or Freeman's catalogue. You know what I mean? So you'd have a toy section, you'd have like a musical instrument section with like a guitar and a K guitar and a K amp, and there'd be like a Korg micro preset. So I didn't get it from there, but
yeah,
I think I inherited that one as well, actually. So I passed it on to you.
Yeah. So yeah, I tend to get the stuff that people inherit and pass on to me when they need to make room for a bigger set.
Yeah.
I'm not. It's funny actually, because I remember being at Synfest and somebody came running over to me, going, oh, legend, synth legend, and all this. I'm like, I don't even know what a square wave is. I do, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like that. I'm more the melody guy, so I can get sounds out of stuff. Well, I like melody and tune. And,
Me too. Me, it's all like
writing catchy choruses, that's my thing, I think. But
right.
So since there's Dean's, got it down pat really.
Great.
I was in a simple.
Yeah. So you're there. You've recorded some stuff. Presumably got signed. Is that right? And then, did you get signed? Do you put out? Well, where we're
the Kings of Longans projects came out via Dean's label.
Oh right. Oh, I see. Right. I get it.
There was a couple of like sevens and a few other people, like a London label and a Manchester label. I basically put out about 8 7-inch singles on lots of different labels, all kind of like limited edition things. So I kind of built up a little following across Europe and whatnot. But then we started doing the Eccentronic Research Council 2010, 11 or something like that. And that's when we got a little deal with Finders Keepers Records, who are based over in Manchester. They put out the more kind of obscure, just loads of great records. In fact, do you know Jane Weaver?
I don't know.
She does like an electro poppy kind of thing.
If you're interested in kind of obscure Yugoslavian soundtrack music and weird electronic music, check. If you go to Finders Keepers website, some amazing stuff.
Right.
Amazing.
It's one of my favorite record labels.
He put out an album by Susan Ciani, who was like a American composer that was like heavily used like a Buchla synthesizer.
Oh, that Vince had one of those. They are hard to get interesting. Well, they're hard to not get interesting sounds out of, but it's hard to control a little bit.
Yeah. But I think she was doing kind of weird advert music, in the 60s. She was like a bit like kind of, not like, do you know Raymond Scott?
I do, yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's like, king of the adverts in the States.
Sudan Chani was more so 70s, early 80s. Yeah,
right.
She did,
but she was like a student at Buchla.
Really?
Yeah. I think she even worked there.
Yeah, she did. Yeah,
I think she worked for Buchla.
Yeah.
Wow.
But she was doing like music for pinball machines as well and sounds.
Music for pinball machines. That is an album title right there. It's perfect.
So check out Finders Keepers Records.
I want to.
I think you'd love it. You'd love a lot of the stuff on there.
Yeah, they do a lot of reissues of Hollywood soundtracks, but the more synth kind of mogi kind of stuff.
Right, and like
really, really amazing.
My all-time favorite is Forbidden Planet, of course, which is incredible.
Yeah,
making machine creatures that died and then recording them. That was the thing.
Yeah, really.
Make these circuits, and they obviously using valves, and as they died out, they'd record.
I'm kidding. The sound of them dying. Wow. You know the story of that. I presume you must do. They originally wanted. I think they started recording an orchestral soundtrack for that film, and Louis and Baby Baron. They got them in as to add a bit of modernity to it. And then they managed to persuade him to ditch all the orchestral stuff and just do it electronically, which is genius. I mean, that is out there. That soundtrack is right out there. Well, it was, there was a TV show before your time. How old are you guys?
Mid-50s, mate.
I'm about 95. Yeah.
No, you look a lot better than I do, anyway. I don't. You probably don't remember it because it was only when I was about 6, I think, or 7, and I was born in 56. But there was a TV series called Space Patrol.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember it, but if you've not heard it or seen it, just look it up. And the soundtrack for that is very much like Louis and Baby Baron. There's no music in it. It's all just electronic weirdness. And it's basically
like feminine kind of thing.
yeah. So it's like he was actually a technician who left Jerry Anderson's workshop, and it was in kind of Super Marionation, but their version of it. But it was totally fucking weird. The whole thing. It was great. I loved it. It distorted my cultural development, and it was in a good way. In a good way. So, right, tell me about what on earth led you to start Eccentronic Research Council. This is a question for both of you, and in particular to get Maxine Peake involved.
How did it start? What was the first thing we did?
I got Maxine involved in a video for a one-off single I did under the name The Shanties on the Crippled Claw, which was me and a singer called Candy Payne from Liverpool. Right. I don't know if you know.
No.
Very great, very 60s kind of, rock. Basically, I sent a message to Maxine on Facebook saying, "Would you be in my video?"
All right.
I'll pay you in Thunderbirds and something else. Rockabilly Records. And she said yes. So
wow.
She came to this moor in Salford, like a grain moor, and I handed her her outfit, which was this cheap bunny rabbit suit, really crap, really crap. So it's basically she's dressed like a pink bunny rabbit. We had an arm wrestle, we had a water pistol fight, and then she got shagged by some dog thinking it was a rabbit.
Nice.
And I kept standing in fox shit because in my shoes, so I stung a fox poo. But yeah, it was a very, very good first impression she got.
Wow, it sounds like a dark version. Sorry, I was just going to say it sounds like a dark version of Harry Hill or something. Anyway, carry on.
Well, then I think I sent a rockabilly record on the signed photograph of Pat Phoenix from Coronation Street.
Oh, yes.
Just to say thank you. And after that, we just got talking, and we talked about the Pendle Witches and stuff. And she was like, "Oh, we should do something on it." And I went, "Oh, all right, then. Let's go to the Pendle area." And I heard mooch about. And basically, I wrote all the narrative for it over, I don't know, I think I went on holiday a week or so later and came back and I'd written it all.
Right.
Then we got Maxine over to Dean's studio, got her to read it all. Then we sort of chopped it all up and put instruments to it, and sounds, and soundtracks the narrative.
I had 2 songs as well.
Yeah, we've brought a few songs for her. So,
and that was the first album. Well,
it was an interesting way to work, coming from a narrative.
Yeah,
because I always writing songs. I've always start with the drum beats or guitar. But it was interesting to come from that more of a narrative kind of thing first, then you creating a soundtrack for it.
And that went very well, did it?
Sorry?
Did that go down well?
Yeah, it went down very well. It was good. It was a critically acclaimed album, and we got on the Culture Show. You can't get any more culture. Have you been on the Culture Show?
Oh no, they don't. It's not for the likes of me, mate. It's no. I was on the early Tony Wilson shows, the So It Goes and all that stuff. So I was surprised they didn't make it. We didn't make it into 24-hour party people. But anyway, no. So and Eccentronic Research Council is still going. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, we've done quite a few records. We soundtracked people's lockdown dreams.
Oh yeah, shit. I love that concept. I love that.
Well, that again is a Delia Derbyshire concept. She did what's it called? Barry Blancmange. Barry Blancmange.
Yeah. She did a radio, but Delia did a a radio broadcast about people's dreams.
in the early 60s. So it's kind of like a nod. I think originally we did one. I was 50 years since Dealey did it, but during lockdown last year, I just asked loads of other people to send me their dreams,
Brilliant.
recording to their phones, and we just soundtrack a lot of it. It's sort of like it's a 38 track album or something. Well, somebody put it out, a label called Castles in Space, down south, put it out for us.
Excellent.
But that went, another critically acclaimed record.
Critics don't buy records. That's what you need to know. Yeah.
We sell 200 copies, but it's critically acclaimed.
Think of the rarity value. When you're rediscovered in the future, when we're all dead and gone, and they'll go, fucking genius that was.
That's the problem, man. I can't fucking wait that long.
No.
I'm about to get a job in McDonald's soon, Martin.
Oh, it's all right.
Unless you need a roadie.
You never know, mate. I tell you. We're supporting so many people at the moment with our crew and everything. It's good, it's good doing live work again. It's excellent.
It's been nice to get out of the house.
Right. Well, you got to do.
I've been talking with International Teachers of Pop.
Yeah. So tell us about International Teachers of Pop.
That's a pop project that's kind of like a disco electro thing. Dean and I put together with a singer from Manchester called Leonore Wheatley, who's also in a band called the Sound Carriers, and her best mate Katie Mason. They kind of go everywhere together. These two girls. So
Let's start it off with Leonore, but then we met Katie and thought, actually, it's like a really interesting kind of dynamic between them.
yeah, it's like Human League, but I've felt out. Yeah,
It's less like the Human League to me, and more like a kind of more hardcore electronic disco version of a kind of twisted ABBA. That's what I'd... Because I think their voices are very characterful and are quite reminiscent of the ABBA women, in places.
Leo's he's really great at doing layers of harmonies and things like that.
That's
It always sounds like, he's very, very agnifer.
That's what makes the difference, though. Because, that underlying appreciation of kind of classic pop writing techniques and arrangement is what. I mean, once you combine that with a degree of oddness, you're on a winner there. As I said on the first attempt at recording this interview, which we had to abandon due to technical issues. It's we actually were looking at getting International Teachers of Pop onto the latest Hem 17 tour, and actually we would like to in the future. It's if we can make.
Very cheap.
Are you very cheap? Oh, that's good.
Incredibly cheap. Than you, just a little bit cheap.
Oh well, we're gonna have to do some work together because I'm a big fan.
Speak to my agents. And,
my people will speak to your people. Yeah.
Fax me, Martin.
Yeah. I'm actually using my 28k modem. Yeah. So, Johnny Rocket, Narcissist, and Music Machine. I'm your biggest fan.
Yeah.
That's
the Eccentronic Research Council.
Yes, I know we're going back to that now, but I was listening to that today, and I just think, fucking hell, this is a dense Christmas cake of a concept.
Yeah.
It's like if you eat too much of it, you end up feeling sick.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting. So tell me about the conceit for that record.
It was written basically it's about a stalker who's stalking this lead singer of a fictional band, the Moonlandingz, and basically it's just coming from her point of view. And then we soundtracked it.
Wow.
So it's kind of based on some actual stuff that's gone on in my own life.
Oh, when you stalked?
So it's can you tell me
how you get somebody to stalk you? I'd love somebody to stalk me. I'm only No, I'm sure it wasn't that much.
I think mad people tend to attract the like, you know.
But how serious did it get? Did you get the police involved?
Nah, not quite. Closer.
Glenn had a stalker, and she was Japanese, and she came from Japan to stalk him and actually sit on his doorstep, and she doorstepped him literally, and he had to really. I mean, it was a dangerous situation because she could have lost her mind. You know, I mean,
You just don't know, do you?
imagine traveling all the way from Japan to stalk someone. Jesus. Anyway, but I do have some knowledge of that. So I'm looking at my notes here about the both of you. So I'm looking at the notion of playful depth. I like that phrase.
Okay.
There's a lot of depth, but there's a kind of playful. It's not self-effacingness. It's an invitation to a conceptual cinematic universe. Is how I kind of view it.
Yeah, most of it's either it has an element of sarcasm, and mainly like most things I'm involved with, I base it all on spite. You know what I mean?
This.
Yeah, you just get deep into your soul and pull out all those spiteful moments.
Oh, great! I love that.
And feed it back.
But there's this interesting thing about obsession in it as well that seems to enter a lot of what it is. And there's some kind of threads that seem to link all this stuff together. It's about that kind of right. Here's a thought I had in between last week and this week is the music they created for the Mighty Boosh. Although it didn't have the same amount of kind of conceptual depth. There's a kind of similarity in some ways. It's kind of like almost like nightmarish, brooding weirdness combined with a degree of silliness, you know, and playfulness, which I find incredibly attractive personally.
I think we've got quite left field influences, so it's quite difficult to make what would be deemed very straight pop, you know, without adding a bit of darkness underneath it or a bit of humour underneath it.
I mean, you can't take that stuff seriously anyway, can you? Really?
No, you know, I can't do it. I can't sit there and write a cheesy pop.
No, I'm just me either.
Without trying to subvert it in some way. I think obviously the stuff Adrian writes as well is the same. Mm-hmm. You know, it all comes from a different kind of experience than what maybe like a normal top 10 pop writer would draw on. You know what I mean?
That's what we felt with the early Human League as well. I have to say, we actively avoided that kind of thing. I mean, obviously I had a reasonable amount of success as a producer with Tina and Tentra and Derby and all that stuff. But then you get offered all sorts of stuff. And, you know, you end up getting offered people like Wet, Wet, Wet and stuff like that. I'm going...
Was that the heroin years?
Yeah, I think it was actually, because they turned up about half an hour late for the fucking meeting.
It's because it was Corey Brown round the corner from the...
Yeah. Probably. Anyway, we'll have to cut that out due to legal reasons. No, yes, I think, yes, if you, my engineer, if you're listening, Chad, we better cut that reference out. It's an illegal comeback. Where are we going here? So, playful depth, yeah. So, and you're also highly collaborative. That's the thing. You know, not everybody is. Not everybody's that open to new influences. How do you feel about that? Do you ever consider it that both of you are kind of unusual in that respect?
I think it's because we are unusual. We haven't got faces for selling records. So you see, you got like somebody who's a little bit more, I don't know, yeah.
Photogenic.
And, they hopefully will sell you like shed loads of records, but they don't. So maybe I should just do it myself.
All right.
I've always loved collaborating with people.
Yeah, it's nice.
That doesn't always go right, but you always kind of learn more by doing it, improving what you're doing yourself in a lot of ways, I think it's really important. I couldn't just sit there by myself and just kind of knock out. Well, I could, but
it'd be boring, wouldn't it? Come on.
It's just there. Yeah. It is, yeah. And it's always nice collaborating with new people that you don't know so well. Me and Adrian have been collaborating for ages. I collaborated for ages with Parrot and then with Jared as well, But I still but the internet gives you the option of very easily collaborating with people overseas as well.
Yes.
I've just worked on an album with a lady called Tara Bush from America.
Oh, I know her. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've just finished her album, and that's been great. Like we haven't met up. I met her years ago, but we didn't meet up. Just sending stuff backwards and forwards, and that's collaboration without having the inconvenience of someone in your house.
Yeah, and the ARC have just we've just put out like a little compilation album of a bunch of new electronic artists that we've produced. So we've got an artist called Wetman, Godhole from New York, Dimitri,
Damp Carpet.
There's a few wet,
Yeah.
Talking about 12. But they're all like more kind of eccentric pop, electronic pop.
Yeah.
So I think you quite like. I'll send you something really good.
Please do. Yeah, I'm really interested in it. And I just saw somebody else I was offered as well, who I really like, by the way, but it just wasn't right for me. It was Rick Astley.
Yeah.
You did that Smiths thing recently, didn't you?
Yeah, actually, this was late 80s, so yeah. So, what's next?
Suicide.
Or the band, or the...
We're working with Suicide. We've got a new Martin Revin. What are we doing next? We're kind of slowly working on the next Moonlandingz record. Very fucking slowly.
I love the Moonlandingz. If anybody's not seen the stuff online, the videos with Maxine, Peak, and...
It was the album of the epoch, Martin.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I'm in love with it. So go and check the Moonlandingz out. They're fucking awesome.
So we got that coming up. I've been doing I've got a couple of other projects. I'm doing like an acid. It's kind of a Twilight acid house kind of thing.
Twilight acid house. What the fuck's that?
It's kind of that very late night when you're a little bit wonkier than you should be.
Right.
Like it works for that kind of environment. With this late young girl called Charlotte Chazza Cannon. She's the band's called Adult Entertainment as well.
Nice name.
So we've been putting on a few late night adult entertainment events. We're doing one in Putnam Bridge at the Trades Club on the 17th of December.
Nice.
And we're doing a festival called Rockaway Beach Festival in Bognor Regis at the old Butlins.
Bognor, yeah, we've done that.
Yeah, it's quite a good festival actually.
Yeah, it is. And
I think Jarvis is doing it this year.
Is he? Correct.
Working Men's Club and Tricky and people like that.
I kind of like doing festivals where I feel like with Hem 17 we don't kind of fit in. Like we did the Whitby Goth Festival twice, lining, and it was really good. I loved every second of it. The audience loved it as well. God knows why. I don't know. But there you go. We're apparently popular with the Goths.
Yeah.
And
I've got Goths are just people in dark clothing now. They're really.
Yeah. It's all kind of merged with the steampunk thing now, isn't it, as well?
Yes, I don't get that really. It's very strange.
It is a bit. I've got a really interesting question. At last. God, it's taken an hour. Would you? No, all right. Would you be interested in creating something that was completely acoustic, but quite complex, like something maybe orchestral or using ethnic instruments or something? I would be really curious to hear what you come out with, because we all work in the electronic field. We always have done, but I mean, I'm very interested in the idea of repurposing the knowledge that's been acquired through designing electronic sound. That's the most exciting thing for me. There was a track that we did with M17 called "The Best Kept Secret," and the idea was we had a 50-piece orchestra and Roland System 100, Korg, and everything. And the brief to the arranger was that we wanted to combine electronic music with the weirder end of the sound you can get out of a string section, for instance. And so that you couldn't tell what was electronic and what wasn't. And we achieved it, I think, on that track. And I've been desperate to kind of go back to that theory and look at that. For instance, recently I did a track on an album based on recordings from the Colombian rainforest of forest creatures, basically. And I decided that I was going to create an immersive soundscape as though you're there in the mid, but it's like Avatar. So you've got like all the original frog sounds and the birds and whatever it is in the undergrowth. Have them talking to electronic versions of themselves in the trees and stuff, and we did it, and it's fucking awesome.
Chris Watson do stuff like that.
Yeah, Chris does that. We've done loads of stuff together.
Do you treat stuff though, or is it all very?
He's from what I remember, he's just the pure sound.
Yeah, no, he's a brilliant recordist.
I know he's got the world's biggest, library of natural sounds. World's biggest penis, yeah, and penis.
I
think
you can keep that one in, Chaz. It's all right. He's a mate.
An interesting thing I heard recently, I hope I'm correct, is by a sound artist called Mark Fell.
Right.
I think he recorded the sounds of the beach, like the people on the beach and everything, and analysed it with a computer. Don't know what software, and then got electronic sounds to play back these sounds of the beach.
Right.
So, like people, everything's people talking, screaming, birds, sound of the sea. But it's all been played back.
I like that.
Data and electronic instruments.
Yeah.
It sounds like a really weird, you can tell it's a beach, but just a very weird version of the beach.
It's funny, actually. Back before I moved to Sheffield, that last Christmas, I was around at Marquis Smith's house. So two funny things that happened with that. He brought like a pheasant to his mum's house because he didn't know how to pluck it. So his mum plucked the pheasant. He eventually brought that back to his house. Didn't have any tin foil, wrapped it in newspaper. And when I went round to his house for like Christmas dinner, I had like fucking newspaper print or Presswich Times or something. All over it.
That's an art project.
But he gave me a present. And he goes, "Yeah, I've got your present. It's music from hell." And it was a Mark Fell CD. Yeah.
Brilliant. I've done quite a few data sonification projects, actually. All that stuff's really good. I mean, there's actually a synth, a virtual synth you can get called Metasynth. Have you ever heard about this?
I've not seen it, but I've heard the name.
You can actually feed in JPEGs, images, and and according to what parameters you set, it'll analyze it and play the music associated with it. For instance, it's quite interesting. Anyway, we're going towards the end now. This has been extremely enlightening, I think, for all concerned.
There's an audience for it somewhere, Martin.
Well, there's an audience with my listeners because they love weird shit. That's the thing. Oh, by the way, before I get on to the end bit, I've got a company called Illustrious Company that does 3-dimensional sound installations for...
Vince?
Yeah, it's with Vince, yeah. And I've got a 3D sound studio in London, and we can actually create surround sound, but with height, and we can move virtual objects around invisibly in space, any size you want. We've done all sorts of stuff, and I just thought at some point it'd be great if you'd let me do an immersive mix of one of your things, or we could work on something together.
Yeah,
just
sure.
to show you. The problem is playing it back, because you need to have a 3D rig to play it back. No, you can render it in binaural. Yeah, no, you can render it in binaural for headphones as well. So, or in a 5.1 rig or 7.1 or whatever, anything you want. But if you're interested, we should talk further about that, because I think it worked really well for the kind of narrative stuff you do, like the eccentronic stuff.
I've got some of that on the boil at the moment. So
Have you?
yeah.
Well, let's talk further about that offline, and I'd just do it for fun basically, and we could come down and do it together if you want. I'll teach you.
Yeah, love to see it. In action.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So we're into the favourite things kind of smash hits type thing now, which is daft but fun and quite insightful for the listeners. So, okay, each of you. We'll start with
my favourite records.
We'll start with Dean. What's your favourite TV show?
Current TV shows or of all time?
Could be anything.
At the moment, I'm really enjoying Succession, which a lot of people are really into.
Yeah, a lot of people are into that.
So that's been really cool watching that. As a child, I was into kind of things like the Time Tunnel and Land of
Time Tunnel, Land of
that kind of thing.
Fantastic stuff. Me too. Yeah.
But I suppose. I mean, I think like Succession's been amazing. Breaking Bad was amazing. Like more recent kind of stuff.
Chernobyl, amazing, wasn't it?
Chernobyl was good. Yeah, that was really good.
I like Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh yeah. I watched every single episode.
New season's just started.
Yeah.
And basically, I don't watch so much TV, but I watch Coronation Street.
Really?
Basically, it's the only way I can kind of unwind from my cranium.
Interesting. Unwind from my cranium. Write that lyric down. It's good. Okay. Adrian, favorite film?
Favorite film? Oh dear. Possession, maybe.
By?
Oh, I can't really say.
Is that an 80s one?
Yeah, it's like a Polish dude, isn't it? I can't remember. Terrible at remembering names, films, things. Smoke too much.
Did you say Obsession or Possession?
Obsession, sorry.
Obsession. Obsession is the most frightening film I've ever seen, including
The one with the last and the...
Yeah, and murdering people, keep them in the back. It was right.
No, it's early 80s.
Wasn't that Roman Polanski? I think it might be.
Yeah, Polanski.
Yeah.
Was it Polanski?
Oh, yeah, anyway.
I'm getting confused between two films at the same time.
Both called. One's
Obsession and one's Possession.
All right, fair enough. Okay, Dean, what's yours?
But I like both those films.
Okay. Dean.
I think, I don't know, it's really hard. I did film at Salt Lane, actually. That writing sort of tons of stuff. Really like kind of film noir and like British 50s films, like The Lady Killers and things like that. I think the film that blew me away the most was probably Alien, actually, seeing that at cinema.
It was beautiful, wasn't it?
That was amazing. It was like, wow. And then similar to Blade Runner as well, similarly.
Yeah.
Time. No one real favourite, but...
Okay. No, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for some kind of dark sci-fi stuff from the 70s, really.
Yeah, me too. So, Adrian, again, favourite book?
Oh, dear. Again, books. I'm not a reader. I read biographies. I'm more interested in other books.
I read biographies.
No, I mean, I don't know. I as a kid, I I'd read stuff like, just weird stuff like Nietzsche. Twilight of the Eye. I mean,
That was in the infants, right?
I should have been sort of, I don't know, maybe a serial killer later.
What happened to the gods, did it?
But I found like a sort of an outlet for this psychotic nature. So yeah, stuff like Twilight and Twilight of the Idols, also Fuss, Zarathustra.
Right. Okay, that'll do.
I like quite a lot of Burrows and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's good. Very
Basically stuff that didn't make much sense.
bloody fancy. You didn't try and read Ulysses by any chance, did you? Jesus Christ.
I'm a big fan of the Bible too.
Oh, yeah.
The Book of Revelation.
Electronic Bible.
Yeah.
Oh, Revelations is great, yeah. Dean.
Again, it's really difficult. I mean, I'm really into biographies at the moment. I've just started on, just bought Eno's Diaries. Have you read that? Right?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
That's pretty interesting. Kind of his day-to-day kind of getting up with the kids, making breakfast, all that kind of thing. Very un-Eno. That's good. I like things like Philip K. Dick, Kurt Vonnegut.
Me too.
You know,
Annalyn Harrison.
Just bought Cat's Cradle again by Vonnegut. So I did have it. I read that years ago and then lost the book. So I bought that again last week. I'm going to read that on holiday, I think.
Right.
Just got Barry Adamson's biography. Not started yet. Barry Adamson from Magazine and the Patsy.
Yeah. I love Magazine. Brilliant.
That was cool about him growing up in Manchester and.
Yeah, I'm heavily into autobiographies. I've just written. I've written it. It's done. A few revisions, but it's coming out next autumn.
Brilliant.
Called it Electronically Yours. Not surprisingly, like everything I ever did. Okay. Favorite other musical artist or composer? Let's start with Dean.
Oh, God.
One of them. It didn't have to be your all-time. Biggest influence.
Biggest influence, probably over the years, has probably been Kraftwerk.
Right.
I got kind of introduced to that very early. My brother bought the Autobahn single in about 74. And I used to hear that along with all the Bowie stuff and everything.
Right.
But out, it didn't sound like anything else.
Exactly.
At the time, it's just it. And I love the B-side as well, Comet Melody.
Yeah.
I used to play that a lot as a kid, when I was like 7, 8 years old.
Really?
So I think that's kind of stuck with me, really. So as an influence, it's probably that. I love Thad Gadget. I really loved him at the time. I used to go and see him play a lot. Just like performance-wise, he was amazing. Love Bowie.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Adrian.
Probably just The Fall.
The Fall.
Yeah. I mean, because Mark always literally lived in the next street from me, so I'd see as a very young teenager,
right?
See him around. We'd read these interviews of him. We always have this malevolent spirit as he passes through the streets. But then I felt completely in love with The Fall when I was like 13.
Wow.
I mean, I was kind of raised on stuff like Gong. By my mum, because she loved all that hippie shit.
Gong. Cheese Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think The Fall would definitely be my number one band that gave me something culturally more than anybody else, I think.
I think recently, also, all the kind of krautrock stuff like Cluster.
Yeah, kind of.
Noy, Cluster, Faust.
When I go for a walk, that's kind of what I listen to, Rodelius.
Yeah.
Just keep finding more and more of it. It's just like, it seems like too much stuff that, that came out of the 70s in Germany. It's just amazing.
And I was into, like, Amon Düül as well and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Much more hippie, but, Yeah. Okay. Adrian, visual artist or conceptual artist?
Myself.
Okay. Let me elucidate on that. Okay, Dean.
I like kind of more kind of abstract kind of things, I think. Kind of I like Bridget Riley, Warhol.
So op art and
All that kind of non, you know.
yeah, non-representative.
Yeah. I like Turner, actually. Some of the weirder Turner stuff.
Tina Turner.
Yeah.
Did you see? There was a great Turner exhibition on at Tate Britain, which was all his kind of travel works. So not his more famous, you know, when later career stuff where he really it was just so beautiful and everything. But the things that led up to all that, it was really fascinating. Actually, I loved it. And also just to say, and I think you guys are probably similar. We all think about the world in a kind of artistically holistic way. I do anyway. I mean, music's just one part of it for me. Everything is like the appreciation of the world using the tools of art for me, you know. Do you feel that way?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I coming from Salford, we had L.S. Lowry.
Right.
Which the good thing about that was anyone could draw a stick man. And in fact, the most anarchic thing I ever did, I did a gig at the ICA in London. In the backstage area, they had very pure white walls.
Yeah.
I had like a black marker on me. I drew a giant stick man. and wrote proper art above it.
Okay.
Then got barred from the ICA. So,
okay. So final question.
a stick man can get you barred.
Oh yeah, I'm not surprised. So final question. What's your favourite synth? Who wants to go first?
They've all got their own personality, haven't they, really?
I like the Synthy, the EMS Synthy.
Yeah, I want one of them.
It's just really just throws out things by itself. I think once you become really good with a synth and you know how to get a sound, it can get a little bit boring, you know what I mean? So, but the Synthy, I can sit down and you can lose a few hours with that.
Oh, yeah.
My favourite is one of those Casio watches from 1983.
No.
Very craft work.
Brilliant. All right, guys, that's the end of the... we managed to get to the end without breaking, which is great. And I love this.
Especially using Northern Wi-Fi.
No, the Wi-Fi is better, isn't it? Yeah, it's like Northern beer. Cool. All right, man. Listen, this is going to come out soon because I think it's one of the better ones I've done. I'm very happy with it.
Say that to everyone, Martin.
No, I don't actually. Just give me Bob shirt if it's bothering you. I'm not going to name names or else I get in trouble. But there's been a few that didn't quite go as I anticipated. But
I've really enjoyed some of them. Mate. I'm not listening to all of them. I just like the people I'm kind of interested in, like Alan Rankin. I've never really heard.
Interesting guy.
I've never really heard him kind of talk for that in that depth. You know what I mean? I absolutely adored Associates. Fantastic.
Oh, me too. I work with him. Yeah. You should listen to Thomas Lear as well. He's really interesting. That just came out this week.
Okay. He's got he did the Bridge album, didn't he? And there's something coming out around that. Yes,
there is. Yeah, he's got a new version of it coming out or something. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your patience and your honesty and all your music is fucking great. I love it all. There's nothing I don't like. So,
and how you work on making something that you're gonna hate.
But seriously, we need to talk after this about next time you're in London. Come and we'll have a chat in the studio, and I'll play some stuff in 3D, and I think you'll dig it. Or maybe bring something down we can mix.
I'll bring the magic mushrooms.
Oh, what? That's a totally different episode. I can tell you about my... Oh, my God. No, don't need to...
That's another show, mate.
That's streaking in Encliffe Park time, that. Anyway, fantastic. All right, guys. I'll see you soon. All right.